Hey everyone. The story that I read this time is called Early Wake Up Call, and it is about a boy named Lester Popkin. He was a very attractive, smart, and athletic student. From an early age, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He got a full college scholarship to an NCAA Division I college to play basketball. He was hoping that once he was done with college, he'd be able to play professional ball either with a team in Europe or in the NBA. Although he was 6'5", he played point guard because he was quick on his feet and he had a great jump shot from the three-point line. In the fifth game of his senior year in college, he was going for a layup and he collided with a player from the other team. When he came down, he landed on his knee, which he knew immediately was not good. Ended up that he required some surgery to repair the ACL in his knee. After surgery, he was put on a variety of medications, including morphine, tramadol, and fentanyl. The fentanyl was the drug of his choice because it made him feel euphoric, and it actually disassociated himself from the pain and the thought that he was never going to be able to play ball again. At this point, he knew his basketball career was over, so he ended up changing gears and decided he was going to apply to med school. He got into a variety of different med schools, and while he was in med school, he had to choose his specialty, so he decided to go into anesthesiology. Anesthesiologists give a variety of drugs to their patients, and the one that was most used, at least in his time, was fentanyl. The anesthesiologist was responsible for administering the correct amount of drugs so that the patient doesn't wake up during the procedure. As a resident, Dr. Lester Popkin was involved in surgeries on a daily basis every week that he was there in the hospital. And he was the one, as the anesthesiologist, who was responsible for the type and the dosage of the drug to be used on the particular patients. The more Lester began using the fentanyl and administering it to his patients, the more he began to know just how easy it would be to steal a little bit for himself. So the drug was prepared into syringes for his patients, and it was prepared as an injectable IV solution. He figured all he had to do was take a little bit out of the vial that was prescribed to the patient and put it into an empty vial and hold on to it in his lab coat until the end of the surgery. So he would replace the fentanyl that he took from the patient's vial with a little saline so that nobody would notice that there was any discrepancies in the amount that was being given to the patients during surgery. This actually ended up diluting the fentanyl for the patients, but he didn't really think much of it. So he did it several times over the next few months, and one day the patient that he was responsible for was having kidney surgery. She was getting a transplant, and he ended up taking too much fentanyl out of it, and the patient ended up waking up on the table. Lester was becoming so dependent on the fentanyl that his body was tolerating the dosages, so it was requiring more and more for him to feel the same effects that he was in the beginning. He ended up giving the patient some more drugs, and she went back to sleep. Once the transplant was over, Lester went into the call room, loaded up his syringe of fentanyl, which happened to be more than he ever had taken before, and injected it into his veins. Within a few minutes, he passed out on the floor and was actually found dead the next morning by another student with the needle still in his arm. So that's the summary of the story. I think it's very unfortunate that people more and more become so dependent on drugs. I think a lot of it starts out when you have a minor surgery like that, You get used to how you feel on the medication, and you figure out some way to just continue to feel that euphoric feel that you feel while you are under the influence. Unfortunately, nowadays in the news, you hear so much in the media about people overdosing on fentanyl, and police now carry Narcan to revive patients. I think it's just really unfortunate today that so many people are dependent on that, and so many people feel as though they're in such bad situations that they have to use drugs like that. And a lot of times it ends up in death. So, you know, I not only feel bad for those people, but also their families. So, but anyway, that's my review. Those are my thoughts, and thanks.